Welcome back. All right, so we're going to talk about rookies today. 32 rookies I'm looking forward to watching for 32 different teams. It does not mean best rookies. It means rookies I'm looking forward to seeing. And yes, with some teams it's easier to find that rookie than it is with some others. So with the New York Islanders, we're going to start off with the Islanders here. Am I going to write the whole name? I think I am. I think I just made that decision. All right, Arttu Raty. Raty, of course, playing well with Finland, seen as being a steal now for the Islanders in the draft. We'll see whether or not he makes the team out of camp, what the plan is, whether or not he needs another year of development, that kind of thing. There will be names on this board who need more development. That's kind of how rookies work. And it is enjoyable to watch careers develop. And for the Islanders, they're hoping that Raty was the steal that he appears to be at this point. Chicago. Now, Chicago, of course, going into a rebuild, so we'll see how many games Lukas Reichel gets, how many minutes he gets in those games, and what kind of stats he's able to put up. But Reichel has a good opportunity here to come in and be part of the foundation of the new build that the Chicago Blackhawks are going to be doing. Of course, they got some first-rounders in this year's draft. There are some players who are going to be coming along later. Reichel should be on this team this year. We'll see how it turns out for him. Coming to St. Louis, still technically a rookie. And I had to go through this because the sports forecaster has some that it's labeled as Calder eligible. And I'm not sure the eligibility is there because unless they've changed the amount of games needed, and especially if a player has appeared in the previous 2 seasons, the bar is much lower in order for them to still qualify as a rookie. But Scott Perunovich qualifies. Did not play enough games not to be a rookie for the St. Louis Blues. If there's an injury on the blue line, look for him to get called up and put into that spot. I don't know that he makes the team out of camp. That's the weird thing. Maybe Perunovich ends up back in the AHL, but at some point this year he should be playing, same as last year, and we'll see what kind of development he has managed to bring about in his game. Nashville was not an easy one, going to be honest. So looking them over, looking for a player that's signed that maybe makes the roster, but we'll see, right? Luke Evangelista is the one I put up there for Nashville. And so again, not all 32 of these rookies are going to end up playing this year. Some of them are going to end up in juniors, might end up in the AHL, or maybe they end up back over in Europe, right? Some of them may end up in Europe. And for Evangelista, we'll see if he makes the roster because the Nashville Predators roster is pretty set. So again, for him to get in there, we'd have to see injury or maybe somebody just doesn't have a great camp and he ends up in that spot, right? For Seattle, now I've talked enough about Matty Beniers. So instead of Matty Beniers, why not pick the guy who was going to be the number 1 draft pick until he wasn't, and that's Shane Wright. Shane Wright, of course, ended up being taken 4th overall by the Seattle Kraken. They made a big deal of him signing his entry-level contract, and they made sure it was in practice in front of fans and all that. Seattle really is focused on building to the future because they're only going into their 2nd year, so that's really important to have that foundation with those prospects. If Shane Wright is ready and he can play, and all the scouting reports I read said he was ready, really the reason that he dropped was he was seen as too nice or passive, depending on how you see it. But I didn't see any reports that said that physically he wasn't ready for the NHL or he shouldn't get a shot at the NHL. And I think Seattle will give him every opportunity. For the LA Kings, let's see if this is the year Alex Turcotte makes it. Turcotte, of course, if he doesn't make it this year, the word bust is going to get thrown around a lot in his direction. There are some LA Kings players that we've heard that with, like Byfield, I've heard the word bust. But this is the thing. This is where LA's got it right. They've got a lot of good young players. So even if you have one that busts, or maybe even 2 that busts, you've got enough young players that it'll be okay. It's one of the reasons why massing how many draft picks that you can if you're Arizona, Montreal, Ottawa over the years, right? It can be really smart because you will have misses in the draft. You're going to have draft picks and prospects that don't make it. But the ones that do kind of make you forget about the ones that don't. So we'll see if this is the year that Turcotte comes up and plays for the Kings. For the New York Rangers, well, again, if he makes the team, great. The one thing with the Rangers, they do have what appears to be a pretty set roster. But Brennan Othmann looked pretty good, what I saw of him at the World Juniors. And so we'll see whether or not Othmann gets that chance with the New York Rangers. Maybe he ends up in a bottom 6 role with the team. This is a team, though, that already has a lot of young players. They may not want Othman to be in one of those bottom 6 roles right out of the gate. So maybe he ends up being sent down. Maybe he ends up being a guy who gets called up later on in the year. Hopefully not as an emergency call-up. But yeah, Othman should get some games, I would think, this year. For Vancouver, he still qualifies as a rookie. Feels like a cheat, though. To me, it kind of feels like a cheat. And that's Andrei Kuzmenko. It's easy to forget that the Vancouver Canucks signed Kuzmenko during the summer because there's been so many players who've moved around. Kuzmenko's got a lot of hype around him. We'll see how well he lives up to that hype. I just keep my fingers crossed with that kind of thing because I've seen so many prospects come and go. No idea if Kuzmenko coming over from the KHL, if he's going to pick it up right away. Hopefully, yes. Hopefully, maybe he ends up with some chemistry with Podkolzin, who's looking to have a really strong breakthrough second season. So we'll see. Vancouver should be able to put the puck in the net, which should favor Kuzmenko's stats. For Anaheim, there really was only one place to go for Anaheim. It just has to be Mason McTavish. This is a team with Zegras. This is a team with Drysdale. Both of them look like keepers. They're going to be fantastic. Sports Forecaster is predicting that Zegras will hit 91 points this year. And you know what? I admire the testicular fortitude of putting 91 points next to Zegras, because if they're right, they can look back and go, see, we got that. So maybe Mason McTavish comes in and maybe he's fantastic right out of the gate. I think he could hit 60 points this year. I do. I could see him winning the Calder too. I think McTavish is a dynamic forward. There is no guarantee at the NHL level, but I think Mason McTavish is I think he's ready. That's something that was coming out of World Juniors. A lot of people said, well, he looks ready, and I will agree with that statement. For Detroit, again, this is a if he makes the team situation, but he should. I mean, really, Simon Edvinsson, there's not really much left for him to prove outside the NHL. He's an absolute beast on the blue line, so I would think Edvinsson makes this team. There are other rookies that could as well. Maybe Soderblom makes this team. He's 8'6". He's still growing. So Edvinsson isn't quite that big. I think he's only like 7 feet tall. But, Edvinsson, we'll see how things turn out for him with the Detroit Red Wings this year. If he makes that blue line, if he makes it onto the team and gets top 4 minutes, Detroit could very quickly have one of the best young blue line cores in the National Hockey League, which bodes well for the future, right? You build from your goaltending and your defense. You build your way out. Well, their offense is already decent. So if Edvinsson comes in and plays anywhere near as well as Seider did, this is going to be a team to watch. For Ottawa, this again, going to a blue liner. If Ottawa's going to make that jump that a lot of people are projecting and predicting, Jake Sanderson coming in and having a seamless transition would help. So Sanderson is my pick for the Ottawa Senators. I'll just end it there. I'm not, but I mean, imagine if I did that, if I did one of these list videos and I went, we'll just go with the first column. I'll see you guys later. Boston was tough because Boston, as I'd mentioned, doesn't have a lot of top-notch prospects. They have been sacrificing the future for the present. John Beecher has an outside shot at making it, only because you've got older forwards. There's a good chance somebody gets hurt, and maybe Beecher gets that role. Now, whether that's playing down the middle or if he's playing on the wing is going to depend on the nature of whatever injury would take place ahead of him. But I'd be interested to see him at the NHL level. Can Beecher play? Since they drafted him, I've been curious about the player. With Columbus, it really has to be, doesn't it? This should be a huge year for Kent Johnson. Kent Johnson and Mason McTavish, two guys who will likely be favored to win the Calder Trophy. And rightfully so. Johnson, and even in games where he wasn't scoring goals for Team Canada, I thought he played quite well. So he's not just a goal scorer. He's not just a points producer. I think Johnson's got a lot to his game. We'll see if that's still the case at the NHL level. But I'm excited, and if you're a Columbus fan, odds are you're likely excited about him as well. Arizona was tough. Arizona, a lot of theirs is future. Future. So I went with Nathan Smith, who got into some games late in the season. Still a rookie. We'll see where he slots into the lineup. Obviously, with the lineup that the Arizona Coyotes have, if you show some natural skill, you're going to get some ice time. And Nathan Smith could very well get a lot of ice time. I thought about putting McBain up. I went with Nathan Smith. I thought, well, what about Gunther? But Gunther probably doesn't make the team yet, right? Right? We'll see. Winnipeg Jets. For Winnipeg, still a rookie. Still a rookie. I triple checked on this. Cole Perfetti's still a rookie. So he got into some games last year. I thought he looked good. I thought he got better as the season went along. And then there's injuries there. So for Cole Perfetti, if he can stay healthy this year, if he makes the team out of camp, I think he makes Winnipeg better. All the talk about the staleness of the Winnipeg Jets, I think goes away if a rookie or two steps in and plays really, really well. And so that's what they're going to be looking for, I think, from Perfetti. He's not the only rookie they're going to be looking for some production from. But, yeah, I think Perfetti's going to be the guy. At some point in time, I would think Perfetti's going to be a top 6 forward for Winnipeg. Won't be this year, but at some point he should be. For Montreal, I mean, I know who it is. I just have to make sure that I'm spelling it right here. Why don't you use PowerPoint? Because PowerPoint sucks. Okay, Slavkovsky. Uri Slavkovsky for Montreal. It really sucks. I used to make PowerPoint presentations. There's a reason I use a whiteboard. So much easier. Because at my old job, I would use the whiteboard for training, or I would use I used PowerPoint at my other job when I did training stuff, and I much preferred the whiteboard. It feels much more interactive and much less, here's a slideshow. So Uri Slavkovsky could very well be an excellent pickup by the Montreal Canadiens. Obviously, passing on Shane Wright caught a lot of people off guard. It was not the safe pick going with Slavkovsky, but if he plays as well as he did at the Olympics, if he plays as well as he has in international tournaments, he'll be okie dokie. I've seen people saying, well, clearly Montreal's going to send him back to Europe. They might, but I don't think so. I think out of camp, I think you have to give him at least that 9-game segment of your time, and don't burn a year on your contract or anything, but at least give him the 9 games. Montreal's not likely to be a playoff contender this year. Give Slavkovsky some games. See what he can do. Moving on to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, another team that has been sacrificing the future for the present, understandably. And so I'm going with Sam Poulin. Poulin is a good player who has been waiting his time for, it feels like a while. We'll see if this is the year he gets into Pittsburgh's lineup. It is quite possible he gets in there. I don't know that Pittsburgh's necessarily done either, though. We're looking at the season starting in a few weeks. It feels like maybe Pittsburgh might want to do something else, but we'll see if Poulin makes it into the lineup. I think there's a lot of teams that would like to clear cap space. There's just nowhere else to put them. Maybe the NHL will bring in a 33rd team, and it won't actually have a physical location. It's going to be cap hell, and it's just teams are going to have, yeah, here you go. Here's our bad contract. Dallas. I don't even know how that would work. Dallas wasn't easy either because I don't think there's going to be a large amount of rookies in their lineup. But I was impressed enough with Riley Damiani to say, you know what? Let's see what Damiani can do next year. Let's see what he can do. I'm just double checking. Yeah, it's Riley Damiani. I will say, great name for a player, and hopefully he breaks through and he makes it onto the roster. I'd put Tufty, but he's not a rookie anymore. But yeah, there's Damiani for Dallas, a team that has most of their young players already in the lineup, which is why finding rookies with some of these teams is going to be difficult. A lot of them have their young players already playing. Minnesota, I don't even have to look for Minnesota because I know who I wrote for Minnesota. It is an obvious choice, Marco Rossi. We saw Matt Boldy come up, and because Matt Boldy only played, I think it was 47 games last year, it's easy to overlook Boldy's production and overlook how natural of a fit he was with Minnesota. If Rossi can provide the same thing Boldy did, that's fantastic for Minnesota. That's 2 guys on entry-level contracts producing very, very well. Minnesota just really has to get through this year. The cap issues with the buyouts for Parise and Suter start to go away pretty quickly. This is the tough year, though. So we'll see if Rossi makes it. Carolina, another one. Pretty set. Probably a lot of veterans. Probably not a lot of rookies. But Jack Drury, I thought, played pretty darn well. Didn't he have 2 goals in 2 games? That's a way to have a start. I don't expect a goal per game from Drury this season, but I thought he played well enough to warrant a call-up, to warrant a look at a camp and see where he would fit into their lineup this coming season. All right, next up on the board, Calgary. One player that is expected to make this roster, and we'll see what kind of offense he can provide them, or two-way play, is Jacob Pelche. Not a lot of hype around Pelche. I don't think there's like a big expectation of him offensively, but he should make the team. Should be fun to watch. And for a Flames team that, what was it, a month and a half ago, there was a lot of, look, nobody wants to play there. Now people do, so Pelche might not make the roster as easily as was expected when the Gaudreau signing and the Tkachuk trade happened and all that fun stuff. So we'll see how things turn out, right? Pelche, first-round draft pick, should make the team, but that's the thing, should. For Toronto, Toronto's not easy because a lot of their young players don't qualify as rookies anymore. So that rules out basically everybody. But there's one that is still a rookie, and I'm going to go ahead and say, you know what? With the track record of Matt Murray, there is the absolute possibility that at some point this year, Toronto's dealing with injury issues, and Erik Källgren could be called back up and could be relied upon for a few games. So Toronto, not a team with a ton of rookies that are likely to go in there and do a whole lot, but if they need Källgren, I think he looked good last year. Not fantastic, but I thought he looked decent. And he is still a rookie, so we'll see if Källgren gets into some games for Toronto. For Buffalo, Buffalo was easy. Really, honestly. Owen Power looked fantastic. If Buffalo makes big strides this year, Dahlin and Owen Power on the blue line likely will play a large role in that. So, yeah, for me, Owen Power's the pick from Buffalo. I don't know that it's close. For Washington, Hendricks Lapierre. And I'm just going to say right now, yes, during reviews, previews, any videos talking about the Capitals, I will call him Maxime Lapierre. It's going to happen. I apologize ahead of time. If I apologize now, I don't have to apologize again later, right? Of course I do. So, yeah, Lapierre, I think, probably makes this team. We'll see if he gets gradually brought in like McMichael has. Washington doesn't generally rush players along, and so we'll see what kind of cushion Lapierre's given and whether he's just thrown on the fourth line or if they need him for a much more prominent role. For the Vegas Golden Knights, Vegas wasn't easy either, but there was one player I was impressed with last year who's still a rookie this year, and that's Paul Cotter. We'll see if Paul Cotter ends up making this team out of camp. I thought he played well. I know he re-signed in this offseason, right? So, yeah, again, not all rookies are going to be your Shane Wrights, your Kent Johnsons. Sometimes they're going to be role players, bottom six guys, which is what Cotter, I think, is going to end up being. But, again, until a rookie plays in the NHL and gets that regular shift in there and everything, you never really know. There's a better chance of the first rounders becoming star players, but there are later round draft picks that do that as well. All right, Colorado. Colorado wasn't easy either, but Sampo Ranta has a chance to make that team. Colorado Avalanche, though a team still with some cap space, may very well be adding before we get to the season. So, again, I was looking over their depth chart, I was looking over games played and all that, and I thought, Sampo Ranta may be the guy who ends up making that team. We will find out soon enough. For San Jose, there were two different names I was torn on. So I'm just going to say I'm putting up William Eklund, who could be great for them this year, but I really wanted to put Bordelot's name up there again. But I've talked about Bordelot recently, so I'll say this with Eklund. I didn't think he looked completely out of place in his 9-game tryout with San Jose last year, but this year I would expect him to play a little bit more and be given a little more responsibility. We'll see how it turns out for them. Eklund, absolutely, I think, a tremendously talented young player, and again, we'll see how it turns out for him in the NHL. For Edmonton, I like how some of these were really easy. I do. I like that looking through depth charts and all that and going, yeah, okay, so it's Dylan Holloway for the Edmonton Oilers. A team that's looking for scoring on the wings is always important. with the Oilers, they have this tremendous depth down the middle. So the depth on the wings is important. Holloway, I think, will be given every opportunity to show he can play with one of the bigger names on the team. I don't see any reason to think that at least during the preseason they won't try it. That's what the preseason is there for. Try it. And if Holloway finds a home either with McDavid, with Draisaitl, or who knows, maybe they put Ryan Nugent-Hopkins as the third-line center. Holloway ends up on one of his wings, and maybe you have 3 scoring lines for Edmonton this year. You can never have too many scoring lines. So I'll be interested to see how Holloway does. For Philadelphia, still a rookie. This player's still a rookie. Noah Cates had his ups and downs last season. Did not play enough games not to qualify as a rookie this year. So he's my pick for Philadelphia. And again, I know there will be some debate about which ones I did or didn't pick. And again, it's my picks. You guys can let me know in the comment section below. Rookies that you don't see on this board that you're excited to watch for whichever team you cheer for. So yeah, Noah Cates is my pick for the Philadelphia Flyers. For New Jersey, a player that I had expected more out of last year. And I think the talent is still there. So I don't see any reason to jump ship just yet. But that's Alexander Holtz for New Jersey. Devils fans want to see a big jump this year. If they're going to get to that big jump, they need the defensive numbers to dramatically improve. And a guy like Holtz to come in and produce. The turnaround for Sharangovich last year where he became a goal scorer was big. But if Holtz can come in, he really has that natural talent. And he is a goal scorer. It's just it did not translate at the NHL level last year in the limited amount of games he got, but he did very well in the AHL, and I think this could be a huge year for Holtz. Florida. Florida wasn't easy either because I don't know how many rookies are going to get a shot. But after kind of an uneventful year last year, Grigory Denisenko is my pick for Florida. Again, not a very eventful season for him last year. There were some expectations of whether or not he would make the roster last year. He did not. At least he didn't stay on the roster. He did play a handful of games for Florida, but not prominent in those games. And so we'll see this year if he gets into the lineup and maybe plays a little bit more than he did last year, right? And finally, last but not least, we're going to Tampa. Tampa, again, not easy, but you know, the interesting thing with Tampa, I looked through their depth chart and I thought, okay, they normally will bring up somebody that we kind of shrug our shoulders at, like Ross Colton. Ross Colton, before he hit the NHL, not a lot of expectations, and now he looks like he could be a 20-goal scorer every year. So I picked Gabriel Fortier. Gabriel Fortier, prospect in this system, has worked his way up. Maybe this is the year he gets a regular shift with the Tampa Bay Lightning. It is going to be a fascinating season. I'm honestly quite enthused about the 2022-2023 season. I think this season's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And yeah, I'm hopeful that we'll see a lot of these rookies in the lineup and in prominent roles. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. And again, I don't think there's a right and wrong with this, though there will always be the ear picks or wrong parts. This is just rookies I'm keeping an eye on that I think will be kind of fun to watch this year. Let me know your picks in the comment section below as always. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.